Welcome, everyone. It's Alicia Brashay here at Cosmic Gateway. I don't have words for the atomic bomb that may get let off in this video, feeling into the energies and the build up to coming together and having this conversation. Welcome, Janette. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to just make a slight introduction, like a back to what you wouldn't even be privy to kind of introduction. So throughout
Okay.
this year, I have been moving through weird and interesting facets of things that I don't always talk about publicly. And silently, I was calling in someone that I could have these conversations with for at least 6 months, perhaps even more. And then we connected. And as soon as I saw you, and as soon as I saw your name, I went, "Thank you, universe. She's finally showed up." So, welcome to, thank you so much for being here and for this conversation that we're going to have today.
Look, thank you, Alicia. What a wonderful introduction that I had no idea about until this very moment. So
I've got a few more of
I'm
those
glad to be of
gems.
service. So we'll see what comes out of this conversation. And I feel exactly the same way. I followed you for many years, and it was a pivotal time to make that connection with you. So whatever you were calling in and whatever I was calling in, and it aligned, and we find ourselves here today and
I know.
see where it goes. So I'm excited. Thank you.
So, I think that just speaks to the potency of what we're calling in and the power of the connection. And, off camera, we were talking a little bit about, I'll let you talk about, like, the how relationships are being challenged right now. We're actually going to dive. So, just a little introduction. Who knows where we're going to end up in this conversation, but I will do a warning. We are going to be deep diving into some pretty, well, it's Scorpio season. So, there will be some really dark, confronting topics that are quite dear to my heart. And I think they need a light shone on them, but from the multidimensional perspective, because you can't have dark without light. So we'll be talking about some things that are happening here in Australia and probably worldwide, but in more intricacies of, someone who's been involved in different industries. But we're also going to be talking about um, this new quantum emerging, this new reality that's emerging too, and everything in between. So I just want to preface, like, please take this conversation. I think it's really powerful, it's really potent, it's really important, very dear to my heart. But take it in increments if you need to, or go and sit and ground yourself outside while you digest some of this information, because there is light to it. And by speaking about it, it just, wow, I was tuning into the energy this morning of this conversation, not even knowing full, where we're going to go. And I just thought, I think we're going to break the internet with this one. There's so much code that wants to come through and so much that wants to explore. So that it's just my little introduction of, like, make sure that you're in a safe and comfortable space and you'll have a as much as you can a regulated nervous system to take in and come back to it. But I do think this is a potent and powerful one. So thank you, Jeanette, and I'll hand it over to you just to give a bit of an introduction to, like, who you are.
Who I am. Okay.
How
So
about you?
multi-dimensional like Alicia. However, obviously I have had a 3D existence as well. So got a couple of growing young men, so in their 20s. So that's been my primary act of this lifetime is those young men. But in when we talk about work, I worked in what we call human services, so child protection services and high complex disability. So they're the main two areas that I worked in, and can be quite challenging navigating those systems, and you will never know decisions being made within those systems and who's making those decisions either. So it can be quite a complex area just to be an employee in and working in those sort of different, I
You
guess,
spent
restrictions.
like 2 decades basically in.
Yeah, close to 2 decades. I'm still around, sort of in the ridges, in the back sort of end of disabilities, not frontline or anything like that, but still got a bit of a pulse on the system and the challenges that we are facing within that system currently within Australia. And there is a lot of challenges within that system. So yeah, many,
You
many
want to,
years.
yeah, do you want to paint a little bit of a picture for maybe those who aren't so familiar with the system,
Sure.
um, and maybe people who are overseas and the system works, but talk about what your role or what was part of your
What I thought
day to, yeah,
initially,
your
yeah.
day to
So
working
when
in.
I first started, naive,
I was
naive,
about to say
and
human trafficking. Human, so, oh my God, we're going to get there. Jesus. Okay, sorry. Just to clarify, that was not your role, but we're going to talk about how these two, like the system works into these big hot topics that are global that
yeah,
need to come to light. But yeah, if
yeah,
you could shed a light on like what your role was, what your day-to-day responsibilities were.
yeah, sure. So one of the positions I took was a residential youth worker. So I did that for many, many years, and then I actually used to coordinate it for many, many years after that. So initially, I had no idea these roles even existed. I went for this job, and they're like, "Oh, it's a 24-hour job. You're there for 24 hours." And I'm like, "No one goes to work for 24 hours, do they?" Like I had no idea, and they'd been around for quite a few years by the time. So it's about 2006 at this stage, and
Mm.
I went along to this job. So initially, there was a big aspect to it around reconciliation with families.
Mm.
Like the first couple of years were really big on reconciliation, visits, phone calls, a lot of interaction with family, you know, uh, providing the families with, support to be able to, I guess, get themselves to where they need to be to, I guess, be more in tune with their child or so forth, or seen under the system to be more in tune
Yeah.
with their child, let's say. So there was a lot of reunification. So children would come in really, and in residential, we're talking children that cannot conform, let's say, to a normal family environment. So most children would be taken from their parents and then placed in a family-based foster care placement. Those don't always work for all children, and they'll put children into residential. The youngest child I ever had in residential was 5. So that will give you some indication on some of these traumas that these young people have got. However, also a rotational staff, I don't know how well that then supports the growth of development of a young child at 5 years old as well. So day to day, just your normal parent type activities, making sure they're having their meals, school, that type of thing, the same sort of thing. A lot of them were involved in some sort of counselling program, or you'd have counsellors, but then the government's got offshoot funded programs anyway, which have got those counselling programs that will come in and have those discussions. But we had good conversations with families. It was really cohesive. I thought we were all working towards getting that child home at the end of the day. So that was my initial experience.
So that was
As
your
it went
introduction.
on,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like you, I don't
yeah.
talk about this often, but around the same time, no, a couple of years later. So I was in Brazil working in like child outreach programs. Because that for some reason that was like my all I ever wanted to do. And then I came home and I was quite lost because and I didn't have well, I had a part-time job, but I was lost. And I needed a job pretty quick as well. And someone like you said to me, "Hey, they're hiring at this place." And while I was in Brazil, someone kind of questioned me. It was like, "Why did you come all this way to work with children?" Like, kind of like this complex of like, aren't you cleaning up your own backyard? Like, why do you feel
Yeah,
like,
don't you have that
yeah,
mess in your
are you,
own area?
is there
Mm.
is there is there pity on us because we're a developing country? Like, do you feel like,
Yeah.
and it rattled me. I'd never even, it never crossed my mind. And so when I came home, I actually got a job in resi. I don't talk about it because it was some of the most traumatic work years of my
Traumatic.
entire career. But like
Mm.
I would always go into the system thinking that I was there to, like, I genuinely wanted good outcomes. And then it's a big churn and burn. If you're not familiar with the system, there's a lot of young, very, I don't know about now, I can't speak now. You probably can, you have a better idea than what I do, but it's a lot of churn and burn of a lot of young staff that are very inexperienced and not trauma informed and not equipped to deal with the complexities of young children who have highly complex trauma. And then we'll go into some of the other, yeah. So it's,
Yeah. Well, up until recently, the state I'm in, and I can't speak to the state you're in, we're different ones, you didn't have to have a qualification. They only brought that in, I'd say, in the last 5 years. That qualification has come in. So prior to that, no, you didn't have to have a qualification. And you're right, it was a big turnover. If you lasted in residential past your 3 months probation, you usually stuck around. And it's horrible to say that, but and generally how it was. If you could handle being assaulted on a daily basis going to work, then you could make it. That's a big one for a lot of people,
yeah.
knowing you're going to go to work and knowing that you're going to be assaulted and you don't know what those outcomes for yourself are going to look like. And then whether or not you're going to get supported as well through the whole system. So whether you're going to be supported by yourself, by the company that you work for, and then the next layer, which is the child protection services. So we were told very clearly not to charge young people. However, in the flip side, they would say you can charge young people. So you've got these two messages of like, we know that their trauma behaviors is what we're seeing. We're seeing their response to how they've always, you know, interacted with adults within their life. And then we're also seeing, I guess, workers that also aren't trained as well. So, like, you've got to, when you're a little bit more mature, you probably come into it with a bit more understanding of developmental cycles and that type of thing. But when you're younger and then you go to work and you get assaulted, and I understand it, no one should go to work and be assaulted. They're the ones that would leave an impact on them, and and then you've got that cycle of abuse continuing because these young people realize they can abuse adults in a controlled environment. So it's like a real
Oh,
interesting, yeah, if you want to speak to that, go for it.
oh,
It's
I just want to, oh my God, I now realize why when I was waking up this morning, I was having PTSD flashbacks of that career. Like, it was a long time ago, but oh my God, like, just to give some people some context, like, I was assaulted multiple times on that job. I got removed from one unit and put in another unit. If I rocked up to work, I used to drive to work and it was a long drive, and I would pray for protection on the way. And mind you, these are children under the age of 18 that are your clients.
yeah,
But it was very uncommon if I didn't arrive at work for my shift and there wasn't an ambulance and a police car in the driveway
yeah,
every day.
yeah,
And that
yeah,
I'm not embellishing. I'm not exaggerating. That was the reality of that work. My very first shift, I got locked in the office because the two clients had a tantrum about not going to school disco, and there were 7 broken windows, and one tried to cut his wrist with a piece of sheet glass. Like that was
yeah. It's that
the.
extreme.
It is that extreme. Yeah.
It's that extreme. Yeah. If you do not respond to how they want you to respond, yes, you will have those behaviors. And that's why you'll find that people won't stay because they'll give in, and then that
Yeah.
will be the flips. They'll have a really hard time once they've given in as well. So
Oh,
it's a really hard line, and you're right. The amount of emergency services, broken windows, the trauma on the workers, like vicarious trauma, is a real thing, and yourself and myself. I guess we can draw on our multidimensional side of things that we could use those energetic
yeah.
understanding to go, okay, this is not feeling overly safe right now. Like you could,
Yeah, yeah.
that's where I think I first learned to read energy, to tell you the truth, big time, because
You
um,
need it in that
you
job.
needed it. Yeah, I've seen young people peel up the security screens like sardines trying to get into the office. Like
Oh,
that day, I just, oh my gosh, like the amount of strength that comes with the trauma, and just the sheer determination of wanting to have it over this adult or have it over, because a lot of it's power play. A lot of it is power play. You can reach some kids. You can have that really honest
yeah.
relationship and growth and so forth. The system doesn't allow it anymore. Back in the day, we were
Wow.
allowed to hug and do things like that. And my big thing was you need to show them some affection, because we're going to raise psychopaths if we don't, because that is a known fact. Trauma and in the absence of love
Mm,
will create that, mind control. They're the ones that are going to end up being so mind controlled, um,
mm,
as they go into adulthood, because they haven't had those relationships to mirror and people come and go, like youth workers are just a dime a dozen. Like
mm. Yeah, yeah.
you start building a rapport, and then you then that person moves on, or something happens and they don't, and they're not there anymore. So that then will also impact.
Yeah.
It's
It, yeah.
yeah, go for
It's
it.
so multi-layered. It's so complex, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
and painting the bad picture, but I also had many breakthroughs and I had beautiful relationships with it.
same.
These, because you can see the light in them and they just haven't had a chance. They've had broken families and
Yeah,
circumstances, and you can empathize. You can understand why they are, having these power plays. And I ended up losing my job because I was showing too much care.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I burnt out because of the same thing. I burnt out, because I stuck it out and stuck it out and stuck it out, and then I ended up as what we call a coordinator, which meant I coordinated all of the resis and staff and did all that. And I got to a point where they would ring me up at say 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'd say, "Can you take a young person from 5 o'clock, from when we shut, till 9 a.m. and put them in a motel room, or a caravan or a cabin or something like that?" And I used to have philosophy. I wouldn't say yes to taking on any young person that I wouldn't want to work in with myself. And then I started thinking, would I want to work would I want to just do an overnight, don't know this young person, don't have any information, can't do any sort of safety planning, risk assessing. Like we've got this big thing on sharps, and I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be commercial accommodation. I'm not going to be able to risk assess. It's in a. I used to manage like what we call the central area, so it's about a 6 hour distance. So I'm 4 hours from that place. I can't go in and just, be a backup support as I could in my local area when it fell apart. That was the other thing. You do a lot of that damage control. You go in and support the worker that's having that attack, or having experiencing whatever they're experiencing on their shift, just to kind of settle it down. But yeah, we got to a place where in the state I'm in, they were doing some random stuff that you couldn't even make sense. That basically they were just on the street through the day, and then you're just giving them a bed for the night. So essentially, they were like homeless or street children. I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. It actually burnt me out, and I left that job, went off on stress leave, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. Cannot do this anymore.
I mean, hats off to you for being in it for as long as you were. I mean, it really is a high, high demand. I mean, we unfortunately there is a need for these roles, but we want to talk about. I'm going to turn a little, oh God, a little
It's not
dark.
all doom and gloom. It's not all doom and
No,
gloom.
it's
Yeah, it's got me to where I am today. It's been part of my journey and so forth. But there are a lot of like you said, there's a lot of people working in that industry that just want to be of service, and they, like myself and yourself, you get in there and it's a totally different ball game.
I
And
don't
it's
I don't know about you, but I've had this experience not just with this industry, but with many others. Is I've gone in, I guess, all Pollyanna, you could say. Maybe I was younger, I was a bit more naive,
yeah,
and then realized that the system actually wasn't set up. It's actually set up to fail people, whether that's intentionally, whether that's just a broken system because we're moving out of an age of, we need to put in a whole new infrastructure, which we'll get to when we'll get to talking about the lighter aspect of it. But I truly believe that it's a broken system that is designed to keep looshing and harvesting intergenerational trauma. And, I've had, how do I say this? I've had privy to understanding many different facets of the corruption and the inversion in these types of systems. And I think it was through our conversation talking about it offline in depth of like, I do believe that this industry is kind of a front for child traffic. I can't even say it, child trafficking, and just with children and I know people, and this goes back into the 80s even, like I know people had near misses of being pulled into the system because they're looking for
yes.
specific,
I
and I don't know if you can speak to that, but
look, it is a huge topic. It is when you see it and you can't unsee it. So,
that's exactly
and
right.
not everyone gets treated the same way. So that's where you go. It's not a system that's got a mechanism. It's not,
Mm.
this is step one, this is step two, no, it's a personality based. So it's a personality. So it's a person sitting in a role working on behalf of a state. So therefore, whatever their perception or whatever they're
Mm.
bringing to their role
Mm.
is what they're doing. So you've got someone like you or me will go in there thinking we're of service. We're going to try and reunify this young person. That may not be your colleague, though. Your colleague may be someone that's actually there from a different point of view and you don't know. So at the time, I didn't see this, but I can see it really clearly now how different officers also were and how, even their approaches were different. And that's because there's no set way of doing something. And that is so that there is, I guess, room, grey areas to be able to move these mechanisms they need, right? So I remember clearly a few years ago at one of the big reforms when we're trying to bring trauma informed. So we were only doing trauma informed care in 2015, I think, 2016 maybe. It was only in the distant past, you know what I mean? It's only right. It's not long ago. So they were talking about how the protection, the system is not there for outcomes. Who's there for outcomes? The providers that are providing a service for the system. So because they're getting funding, they've got all these fancy little audits and stuff they've got to go through, and then that way they can show that they're, fit and purpose to, support these young people. But they're also looking to see that what their outcomes are and that they've got outcomes, right? So that they can keep their funding, right? But the actual bucket of money at the top, they don't work in outcomes. So when you've got a system not working in outcomes, it doesn't filter down.
No. And
You're only as
that's
good as your manager. Remember that word saying? You're
yeah.
only as good as your manager.
Yeah, that's
So,
and there's so much money in the funding. Um, and I've learned that through many of the roles that I've worked in. There is so much money in the funding, but the frustration that I came across is they just want boxes ticked, like the level of actual care. And it's not to say there aren't good people in there, but the overall
oh,
system
absolutely.
itself, the mechanism that runs, isn't like
People get tainted too. Like they'll go in there with, I've always worked for a small business. So the company I worked for was very small on the, it was really only literally this region. We had a few things in Victoria, but not many. So it was really Victoria, Queensland, that they're the two states I'm going to mention. So they, I've just lost my train of thought what we were talking about.
it's all right. I'm like,
Weaving.
yeah, we're weaving.
Oh dear, I'd lost my train of thought.
You
See,
say Queensland and Victoria, a
because
small organization.
we were talking about, yeah, buckets of money. Let's go there, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll talk about the funding aspects. So it became very apparent in the state I live in that when the government changed last year, that the bucket of funding in my state was an open-ended budget. So you've got a child protection service with a system that's got an open-ended budget, and the change of government come through and said you can't have that. We're going to put a cap on it. So when you're in a state with an open-ended budget for a system,
Mm,
there's a bit of a problem there because then, from my point of view, you can see that there's going to be people that this is where I was going. There's people that join in that start these little providers
yeah.
with all the intention in the world.
Well, yeah.
And I'd say the company I worked for was one of those ones, and they continued to do that, and they're not in operation anymore because of
Mm,
it burns them out, right? And that is because they've got in there with the intention. And we would say we're not putting these two young people together. No, we're not doing it. Just so we had two young people in separate resis that were all getting to a place that were really starting to really settle, calm, good set of workers coming to work every day, you know. And then they go, we want you to put those two young people together now, and we're going to put a third one in there as well.
mm,
So who are they trying to actually get to a point of where they can function and stuff? I don't think any of it's at a point where it can function because now you're going to put two young people together that aren't related, put a third one in there, pull workers in there that don't work. There's no, there's no like relationships, right? So we're talking about relationship building is part of that, building that relationship with yourself and then building that with others out there. In that sort of environment, there is
mm,
all that indicates is more trauma, more services,
mm,
more funding.
mm.
And that's where I come from. So as in that's where my thought process goes when I see that open-ended budget, because reality is that's what happens. They'll disrupt a young person. I don't know whose intention it is. I don't, somebody's has said, let's do this. And they know what the outcome is, even though they don't work in outcomes, they know what the outcome is. The outcome is re-traumatizing
It's
that young person.
yeah. And unfortunately, the harsh reality is, when I worked in care, and I'm sure you can attest to this, and everyone, I have great friends who've worked in this industry too. Like, I've known a lot of people I've had these conversations off camera for so long, and it's like, okay, for some reason, it has to be brought to the forefront. I
Yeah.
don't think I ever worked I don't know if I ever had a client that hadn't gone through some form of sexual abuse, whether that got them into care or it happened in care. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah,
Sorry, I cut you off there. Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. I want to get into more of the multidimensional energy heart, like, and also
Yeah.
I've known people who have been in care who have said to me very, very clearly, this was a targeted intergenerational through
Yes.
the line because of the genetics. They wanted people in care to have children because of their genetics, because then they were going to take those children. And then that goes into, and we probably won't go too deep into it, but that goes into MK Ultra, that goes into rituals, that goes into um, the, some of the really heavy stuff. And
Yeah.
I did, I've touched on this when on other interviews about, trafficking and like, everyone wants to stop trafficking, but no one talks about the intricacies of how it actually happens. And it's like, well, let's
Yes.
kind of paint a very specific picture about some of the avenues. I'm not saying all,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, and not all officers either are the same either. That we
Yeah.
know that as well, because we have got people holding the light there that are probably just as if they can't see the unfolding of what, they're just confused at the moment to what it actually is going on within their reality. However, you're right. There is that level of understanding that sexual abuse is a main component of young people in care. And if it isn't, then it will be probably that's something that will occur to them before they leave care. And another thing is, I haven't had any experience with this, but I've heard other friends that have worked in other organisations and stuff. There's a high lot of prostitution as well.
Yeah.
So it sort of, it's hard to put it into, for this sort of platform, like to sort of be
It's too big
so
to, yeah.
sensitive as well to everybody, because I'm sure there's people within the audience that have also been targeted. I know of situations where, say, they were in the system as a young person, then something happened to them while they were in the system. So it's ended up, them ended up in a juvenile court, something severe, but again, they've gone through trauma, and what sort of support had they had up until that point? And then when they have a child, they'll say they're a predator, or they're a, this or that. And they may be on paper, they may look like that on paper, but what are the actual contents, and breaking it down into the multidimensional layers of why has it now been 2 or 3 generations, and
Mm.
where does the system, where's accountability, I guess? When are we going to start asking for some sort of accountability?
And thank you for bringing that up, because then there's the other side of the coin too. And I just want to fill in some blanks, because it's not all, but then it's also the false allegation component, which is when you're dealing with people who are highly traumatized and you've
Yes.
got good workers in those industries, you are a little bit vulnerable, because there is a lot of, I remember seeing something earlier this year that there was syndicates. So they changed the law back in 2020 around the historical abuse cases and the compensation money. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't get compensation if they truly have, but there were syndicates that were creating false allegations and had made millions, if not billions of dollars based off fraudulent allegations. So you've got on one hand all this trauma and abuse, and you've got this molting.
Yeah. Because I've haven't seen it with like the sexual abuse, but I have seen it with. I've had to go with and sit with workers while they've had to go and do their police report, because being the coordinator, I had to be their support person, right? So I didn't say anything, but I'd listen to, but it usually was over allegations, and nobody I ever worked with was ever found to be at fault. But it is such a, it's a, it's a, for the worker who hasn't done anything, and they've had to go and sit through that process, or go through that process where they're being asked about, whatever it was, the context, and there is no context, because from their point of view, that nothing happened, and I'm not saying that we don't listen to young people. We definitely do, yes, listen to young people. but we've got to look at it from how we look at everything we know and little about, which is until you see it, you until you see it and exposed to it, and then when you're sitting over here, you're going, no, no, no. That why would a young person say that an adult did something that they didn't do? Well, because they've got a trauma developed brain.
Yeah.
And when the brain hasn't, and we're talking young people under 18, the brain hasn't even pruned out those, what they call pruned out, it hasn't even sort of started, those neuron pathways are so severed that it's not like talking to your under 18-year-old that's had let's say, well-rounded, just your normal trauma, or so forth, and they still struggle with understanding and seeing what their actions are going to be for what they've said, whether it's a lie or it's a truth, and even when they become adults and, move on 10, 15 years post that, unless they've had some sort of way forward on how to then recalibrate their own brain and their own thinking, and they're always going to be stuck in that whatever age that is. And when you remember when Alisha wouldn't give me the blah blah back in 2008, well, I'm going to do something about that now, because that's always been, and I'm not saying they're all like that, but there is, because of the fragmenting of the brain, there's that chance that things just haven't recalibrated back to the memory exactly how it was and who it was.
Exactly. And I mean, even that's just on one level, and like talking about going through ascension and timelines and SSP, like, I mean, we haven't even thrown that into the mix, and I'm not even saying, but that, there's all these other layers that play out. I want to speak to, thank you. I mean,
no. Thank you for bringing this up, because I mean, it's been something that I've wanted to speak about, but I have been reluctant about speaking out about it as well, because it's so multidimensional. It's so complex. It's so, like you said, please go. Let's see where
like
this.
as you and this has sort of come up because I have close friends of mine who've been in the system, going through tough things in the system. I have one of my close soul brothers, like it's very skewed to not supporting men. Just through the whole COVID thing, there was kind of an agenda that, let's just say, there was an agenda that was like, and I have, this soul brother of mine who informs, I wouldn't know about it otherwise. And he said to me, all my male friends are going through some sort of legal battle because of an ex-wife, an ex-partner, a this or that, a workplace drama, like, and all of a sudden it's just been highlighted. Like, and I think it's because we're getting to the pointy end of, like it's quite everything everywhere all at once. And I think, and I also have a lot of dear friends of mine who've been through horrific trauma and abuse, and they have gone through the systems and not had justice. So my whole thing is like, what's wrong with this? The system's really broken on all angles, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think only this year, through client sessions, have I started to see the mechanics of the energy that is operating. And that's kind of, I was like, oh my God, this is designed to keep people in those lower timelines, whether they're in I mean, probably, I mean, we won't even bring that into it, but but it's like there is this very specific design that it's interwoven to kind of perpetuate the wheel that generates this energy, this frequency that runs the mainframe, if you will.
Yeah.
and it's based on trauma and re-perpetuating trauma.
Yeah.
But what I do want to say is I do think that there is amazing people, whether it be workers or people going through these, oh God, going through these situations and circumstances that are really strong souls that are actually breaking the chain, bit by bit. We're in
Yeah.
to break the system.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like I can, just as you were talking, I was getting this vision, this download of like why we not necessarily have solutions. We're just bringing a topic to light, and maybe the solutions will come by doing this. Maybe this is the first step. But as you were talking, I was seeing all these beams of light coming into the system, and it's almost like trying to reach the
Oh,
nucleus. It's trying
yeah.
to like shatter so that
Yeah.
the exposure,
Gets exposed.
and then it kind of just, it's like it's then vulnerable. It's like out there in the open. And
Yes.
I think that's maybe the starting process of what we're doing here today, because then we're going to change tune a little bit. But the other things that were coming to me while you were talking was like, do you know how many sessions I've done over the years where people are like, I know I'm meant to be working with young people. Um, I know like I've had these dreams or visions or instincts or just knowings, but I don't know how or when or what, or it's not my expertise, but and I was like, oh, that's the solution. All those people out
Mhm.
here probably listen to this that have had this inkling. I'm meant to help young people.
Yes.
I think the solution is the community, like the true caregivers, because yeah, okay, that whole matrix and system implodes on itself, which is inevitable.
Mhm. Yes.
But then
Yes.
what? We've still
Then
got,
what?
you know what I mean?
Traumatized people.
We've still
Yes.
got traumatized people. And
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking of some people specifically that I've known who've been influential in my life that, maybe are retired or, you know, like I can think of so many people in my mind that are just brilliant caregivers
Yes. Exactly.
who
Yeah.
are spiritually attuned, who, and I know it's there and it's coming. I don't know how the intricacies of how, but I just wanted to share that, like, because I know we've gone really
It got really deep and dense,
deep.
really dark, and and it is happening though. I guess that's what we just got to bring into the reality of like into this light dimension that we see it. A lot of people have seen it because it has had a big turnaround of workers. So, and
Mm. Well,
as
yeah, I
we,
was going to ask you that question because you're more relevant, I guess, than what I am. How many people do you know of that you've worked with or are in contact with that are kind of seeing through the illusion, so to speak?
most of them aren't in that position anymore. Don't work in those positions. Yeah. I think before COVID, I'd say 2017 was March 2017 was when I was done.
Mm.
Um, uh, Ones that have been around for a while, well, kind of, they fell off about 2015. Some have tried to go back to those sorts of roles, only lasted a couple of months, or got seriously assaulted, like
Mm.
to the point where there's no coming back. It's triggered their own trauma,
Mm.
and
Mm.
and um, and that's the other thing you'll find. But most of them will I feel like most people see through it within 3 months of working there that there's something wrong with the system.
Yeah,
Most people will.
yeah.
Most people are still in that mindset. I'm here to help young people. I just want to work with young people. I just want to help them. I just want to help them. I just want to help them. And I think we get the media and all of those, systems that also tell us what's best. Child protection's best. That word is, well, the Child Protection Act in my state's only from 1999. So before
Really?
1999. Yeah, I don't know what yours is, but ours is 99. So they didn't really care until 99. I think UN Declaration of Child's Rights was only 1996.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
So there's something that shifted there that we know that, well, we don't know, but we can sort of
Mhm.
come to some sort of pinpoint. This was the start of breaking down every relationship, because if we can break down the multi-generational, whether we get through the secret space program or we get them through the child protection program, it doesn't matter.
And
It's
they're
still
interlinked.
getting them.
Yeah.
Still causing trauma. It's still going to be the loosh. It's still going to power up the
Yeah.
bigger multi-dimensional uh, system that's being played in the background. But we can sort of see that, yeah, the last 25 years, maybe 20, 25 years.
That's fascinating time frame.
Yeah.
And just as you said that, I just can feel the energy ripple through my body of like, I've been talking about expiration dates around technology. Like, I just feel that there's an expiration date around what was put in place, and maybe that's why there's been this brewing inside of me, inside of you, and perhaps I'm sure many others, of just having these conversations, because we're going to have to find solutions soon that,
We need to acknowledge it. We need to know that there's been, a blind sighting or a blind spot
mm,
placed on the whole of, especially the Australian population. We get told we live in this lucky country, which was a metaphor for you don't live in a lucky country, but none of us were smart enough to realize that at the time. So we just grew up with this, oh, you've got it all. Yeah. And it's only through the unraveling that you can see. So I remember having that conversation with my mother about child protection 2020, I think it was, because she was a registered nurse. So I was like, I had to face it, Mum. Like, you're going to have to face the medical and all of the crap at some stage. You're going to have to, and it's not
mm,
nice. It's not pleasant to think I was a child trafficker. That's what I used to go and pick them up from child protection, and so I'm pretty much the middleman driving the car in the middle. So you you look at some of the things that you've done, and it's
mm,
not easy to have those conversations with yourself, but when you're willing to actually look at that and have those conversations, and the more as humanity does on the unraveling of
mm,
what were we playing in, and what
yeah,
were those conversations, and at the time we know it didn't feel right. We had the body reaction, we had the intuition to tell us
yeah,
this is not a this is something else. But we went along with it,
mm,
and that's the unraveling. And I think you're right. The exploration is going to be with us, as it always is. We're the disclosure.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you just exploded my mind of like, what was I complicit in, in working in that and many other industries, like the overarching, and when it didn't feel right, like it's really quite, and it's like we're not there as an active, willing participant on a conscious level. We're actually there to shed light and do good, but we're actually in the,
Part of the problem.
yeah,
Part of the problem, because we're the willing participant to be able to,
to make them,
for them to connect,
yeah,
you know, some with, foster carers, and they all think they're doing a brilliant job. A lot of foster carers these days can't have children, so they think I'll foster, and again, they use them as well as the residential. So they'll burn out a good foster carer by giving them 8 children, just some ridiculous amount of children, and again, what's the impact on that young person? Well, we know what that impact is. Well, they've just been, placed into a placement which is probably not saying it's worse than where they come from, but maybe from their point of view, it actually is, because it's nothing they know, and yeah, but we are very complicit in these roles.
and it's like you said, it's breaking down the family unit, and I've heard a lot of these stories and journeys of these children, And like you said, like, okay, for example, I know someone who was like attempted to put into care, you know, because of a misunderstanding. And I wonder how many are taken away from relatively good families where there's been an incident where there could have been more work done around
Yeah.
healing, reconciliation. Like, I think
Supports
that,
in the family, supports in the family.
yeah,
Sometimes that's all it takes, just that support in the
that's a big
family.
trauma to rip a child from what they know, even if it's deemed unsafe. And there's
Yeah.
various levels of unsafe.
Yep.
Um,
Because it's unsafe for the parent. That's another one that they like to use once a child gets to a real that 10, 12 year. I looked after well, didn't look after him, but I cared for a young person. He was 15, I think, 14, 15. And parents just couldn't deal with him anymore. And they handed him over. So there's also, you've got the catch 22 of these young people that end up in care as well. Like he was an anomaly. There was many like him, but he was for me in residential because most of them didn't go into residential. Most of them would just go into a foster care or something like that. But residential is usually, compounded placements.
multiple,
It's multiple placements. Yeah, he didn't quite meet that criteria. He went pretty much from mum and dad's into residential, and he was difficult to actually because he didn't have any of the trauma and stuff. So him and I had a totally different relationship. I ended up he was the one that I said take me off his roster as I quit because I couldn't build rapport with him because he didn't have the the normal stuff. He would just complain. He'd be one that if I refused to drive him somewhere, he would ring his officer, and then my boss would ring me and tell me I had to drive him, and then I'd just go, "Can you hear him yelling? I'm not driving him anywhere." Like
mm,
it was that sort of thing. Like he can calm down, and he knows he's doing something wrong, and
mm,
I'll take him where he needs to go, but I'm not going to take him while he's yelling at me like that.
yeah.
you know, so I could see that. And then I know of someone that I met since in the last couple of years that had her child removed and it was over an incident as well. So, and that's caused compounded trauma. You can imagine like
Mm,
12 years old, being told that you're the worst of the worst and you're a danger to your family where we're now taking you. So, I mean, what is the system set up for? Whatever goes, really. And that is what we need to shine the light on because there is no step by step
yeah.
way because they're all representing a system, a state. So it's all going to come down to the individual. Like, what do you want to get out of your job every day? Do you want to get reconciliation, or am
Mm,
I being told by some system that there is no such word as reconciliation? It's actually keep them in the system till they turn 18 because so we've got these court orders. So that's the other thing, that's how the system works on these court orders. So back in the day, I would see a young person be removed. Parents would go on, say, just a short term, and then they'd have, you know, time to actually get themselves to a place. Maybe housing would step in, set them up or whatever, and then they'd be right to, have the child return to their home pretty quickly. Now we're seeing the turnaround. I heard recently someone's child got put on 18 to 18 years. Like I think they were only in care 6 months. That wasn't what it used to be 2 years. It used to have to be 2 years back in the day. They used to be put on a 2-year order at the most, and then that go back to court in 2 years, and then it may get extended for another couple of years. But there was from time to time, the ones that would get 18 to their 18 from the second year one. But now no, there is no steps. It's pretty much till, so it all works on these state or court orders as well.
yeah.
That also, yeah, I
Wow.
don't know. It's so multi-layered,
There's
Alicia. I didn't know we were going to go
No, I
so,
didn't think so either. We're going to take a
yeah,
turn because we were going to talk about this, and there was two topics, and
yeah, there is another one.
we're gonna overlay that now. But I just wanted to say one last thing before like as you were talking and you're sharing about that young boy, and I was like, what a different dynamic it would be if someone walked in there and did some entity clearing. Oh
Oh,
my God. Could you? Oh my God.
we did, my boss did do that at one of our resis.
Oh, really?
We had an Indigenous elder come in. She
Ah,
cleared one of the houses, yeah, in about 4 hours north of where I am. Because I
and
reckon they thought that workers thought that's what was going on there.
yeah.
And we had some really obviously intuitive people that were
Mm,
seeing energies and stuff like that. And they all said, yeah, it made a difference by
yeah.
that. And this was before I knew anything about energy clearing, really. I
Wow.
used to just clear myself. I used to just sort of have this little affirmation I used to say to myself, whether or not that's how the day was. But you used to have to get yourself into I don't know how you were, but you'll say you were praying as you're driving. So you were getting yourself,
Live
please let
the
me
rest
live
of the
today.
day.
I know, it's just so. Yeah, just even yeah, we did. We had that clearing done because they believed,
Wow.
but I guess we didn't have the understanding of the attachments, but then also traumatized workers because obviously you've got workers that come in with the same um, traumas. You got workers that have been through the system and they've come out the other side, so they've come back into to sort of give that look. I made it. That's the common story with the ones
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
gone through the system. You can make it out the other side. But yeah, one example of entity. But I know every single resi I worked in, there was always some weird stuff. Weird
Yeah.
stuff.
I'm like, well, maybe that's a temporary. I mean,
Yeah. Well.
implementing that, but maybe speaking to people who are still in the system, you can, by your
Yes.
light, by the power of your own intention, that you can make
Yes.
a difference. And oh yeah, I mean, the days that I put up my energy space, you know, protection, for lack of a better word. I don't use that word anymore now, but
Yep.
back then it would have been under that umbrella. I had a much easier day, and I used to blast the shit out of, like, I used to like blast light into the home, and like, oh my God, I had my work, like the amount of energy work just before a shift. And yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, like sometimes they're 12, 24-hour shifts, like you're there for a long
Yeah.
time.
You're there for a
But
long time.
one thing that's just dawned on me that just, I mentioned how I had been working in a project in Brazil prior
Yeah.
to, I actually had more dangerous situations happen here in Australia, and
Brazil.
I actually felt so much
Mm.
more safer there. And like in the project that I worked in for, a short while, it wasn't a long term thing, but there was the negotiation, because I was a foreigner in what would be considered the rough end of town, the favelas,
Oh, right. Yeah.
and being lighter skin, I kind of
So you'd
blended
have a safety
in.
plan type thing, like a
Well,
risk.
no, there was not like every time I went into any of those neighborhoods, and I went into like other projects and things like that in different areas, there was a negotiation that was made between the organization and the drug dealers. Um, no, yeah, you had to. Otherwise, yeah. So the negotiation was, there is a foreigner coming in, they're doing the good work in the community. So you can come in at this time when they're sleeping and they're not working. Their workload's not in operation. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm dead
Wow.
serious.
At least you know what you're dealing with, don't you? At
But there
least
was
you
there was
know.
agreements put in place, and they welcomed it, and they were okay with it, as long as, not just me, but any people in the organization, we could not talk bad about drugs, about their
Okay.
business. We could not, like, we could go in and do a, but we could
And put the drugs down.
educate around, we couldn't be bad for business.
Yes,
But
yeah,
that was
yeah,
the
yeah.
agreements. Like,
Wow.
and I felt very
Interesting.
safe in doing that. I'm
Well,
like,
you sort of know your perimeters, don't you? You know the perimeters, you know the boundaries, someone's sort of got your back. In
well, yeah. Yeah.
Australia, it's a coverted
The thing
system.
is, I think the difference was that those children that I interacted, and it was, look, I can't compare it, because I'm sure, but there was a level of gratitude from those children because they, yeah, they were grateful for the support. Where here, you're assaulted on a daily basis and you're not. Um, there's
You're not.
not.
There's no
Yeah,
respect. There's no respect.
no,
There's no respect. Yeah, they're not taught to respect adults in residential. There's nothing to say, you know, because there's no consequences because we're not the parents, and they know that at the end of the day. So there's no consequences.
exactly.
Yeah. So if you're growing up in that it's very hard to make adult decisions when you've had no consequences as well as a child. So yeah.
Well, thank you for all this. I feel like we're going to wrap that up in a bit of a cauldron, this whole entire topic around children trafficking, the
Yeah.
systems, you know, the the just I'm a bit tongue tied because it's like all the people, the dark and the light, and how it's all playing out. Oh, did you hear that?
You
Yeah,
did hear that?
my house talks to me. Just FYI.
That was loud.
Yeah, I feel like I just want to wrap it all up in like a ball of light and
Yeah.
just kind of as we close down this topic, um, and honor everyone's role in what they're playing because we know now when we move into the next topic that we're going to be speaking
Yes.
about of like kind of being at the pointy end of the stick and everything's coming up, but why is that and what are we moving into? So you and I had the privilege of connecting via quantum merging,
We did, yes.
and I actually had it marked on my calendar that it was going to be a significant date, but I didn't know why. And I didn't know what that meant. And of course, when I first met you, I was like, oh, you heard my call. We got in, we had this chat for hours
I was,
and we got into the session.
yeah.
And I didn't tell you this, but what we're going to talk about, because I'd love for you to share what you got out of that. My jaw dropped in most of the things that you said in that session because you described things that I have lived through and I have witnessed that I have never spoken to a single soul about in such specific details that it was almost like you're plucking out things out of my consciousness. And
Oh,
I wanted to
wow.
wait to tell you that as we were recording, it left like a it left an imprint in me because I was lost for words. Like how, and literally as I'm like, you didn't see my expression because as you're talking all this, and obviously your higher self was the one that was speaking primarily, but you were there too. As my jaws, like I'm trying to pick my jaw up off the ground, you turned and you said, and you know this very well because and I just went, yeah. Yet I have never said it on a podcast. I've never even shared it with my closest. So anyway, that's my little um
It was very matter of fact too, wasn't it? Like
it was
Alisha
so
knows.
matter of fact. It was there was no wishy-washy to it. It was like boom. So I'm gonna hand it over to you. If you remember, I mean, you may not even remember a lot of the details, but I'm sure you remember some of it. But talking about like the energies at present, what we're traversing through, and why, and what is like on upon the horizon is
Yeah.
so mind blowing.
Oh, it's massive. So yeah, look, I that session was mind blowing for me as well. Like, I think we started the body scan. I think we only got like 2 inches, and then it was like, boom, this is what we're talking about. So, so a lot of obviously the optics, so the eyes. It's the gateway to the soul, as they say, and so what really come through was how we've perceived these different, I guess, let's call epilepsy one of them, or even
So,
stroke, you know, that activity in the brain, how it alters or, you know, changes those pathways, and how really they are quite optimal optics. And the fact that we invert the eyes as we see, and then through to the third eye. And yeah, it was basically my thing has been working with the third eye, and really looking into what Alicia already knew about the third eye, apparently, as I was told. and and that, you know, so in my session, it was, I thought I was like having an epileptic fit. My eyes were just
mm,
like, they were closed. I know they were definitely closed, but if in my like internal reality, it looked like I was just opening and closing my eyes. So it was
mm,
definitely that sensation of something new coming into the optics. And well, it's not new, it's actually been there always. It's just been dormant, and we're going to learn how to bring it online, and how it's connected in that multidimensional way as well. So obviously the session stuff come through, and a lot of it was to do with the third eye
mm.
and activating that, and the balance, and you know, the perception is obviously in the middle of the body. So yeah, so I've just been doing a lot of work within that. So yeah, what would you like to speak to?
Yeah, I actually even forgot about that part. And I don't know if you saw the video that I did with Todd after our session. I don't think, oh, you did. And he talked about having a seizure. And I was like, I know what that is. Like, and since then, I've had so much feedback from other people who've reached out saying, thank you for putting language around that. So once again, we're doing that again because people are having these, well, I guess they're light coded activations that is that's coming in. And we'll get to that, but the new harmonic uh,
Yeah,
dance that's happening in the universe with the planet bodies. But it's actually, as you said so well, it's just reactivating what's been dormant inside in the pineal gland, the third eye, um, that is giving people their true sight back and their vision. And I can imagine that for most people, if they haven't had experiences or training or preparation or even awarenesses, that could be a really scary thing to come online all of a sudden. You would think that you were having a seizure, you know, some sort of um,
so that was the sensation within the body. So yeah, I'd like to share that out to everybody that may be experiencing that, as their, you know, multidimensional layers are
mm,
starting to be what is, you know, part of their actual self. So,
yeah, yeah, wow. And I think that that ties into, I don't remember how much you remember about talking about this harmonic, like how there's an alignment, there's this planetary alignment, this new harmonic reality that's opening up. And
oh,
I think,
vaguely, because I don't think I got information through. I think I just sort of said there's some alignment.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's going to cause this. Yes. So if you can speak to that, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can't believe, actually, okay, maybe I can't believe you don't remember all that. You spoke quite in depth about it. And I was like, wow.
You probably trigger me as you talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. That's the one thing that I had seen in this higher state of consciousness, that the new reality that is birthing is just a harmonic layer of reality that we would liken to, let's say, a hologram, but it's not. It's a true version of reality that has that more light infused, but it has tangibility. It's not just light, but you know, like a hologram that has that iridescence. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It has an iridescence to it. And I've seen this in many different ways, but it's like a stream of energy that comes through the planetary bodies and it attunes them into this almost like an orchestra of sound and
That's
frequency.
right. Yeah, we're still
Yeah.
going back now. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, good. I
yes,
was like, did
yes.
I make that up?
No, because I listened to the recording like a couple of days after we did it, but I haven't gone back. So
Yeah.
I did hear it. I did listen to it again, so
Yeah.
that I did cement in what.
Yeah.
But I will go back and have another listen to that
And
because
that's what's trickling and rippling through. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And so you talking about all that, I was just like, yeah, like I've actually never, these are the conversations I want to be having because this is like the intel that's kind of dropping at our doorstep. Not just intel, but this is the people are actually going through these experiences of getting waves of this. And that's going to look
yes,
different for different
yeah.
strokes for different folks. God.
Exactly
Um,
what it is, though, is it? Different. Yeah, it actually. I just got hues. So, like you said, strokes. So, I'm just seeing the painting, like the different colors, the different depends on your color or the stroke of the color to
mhm, mhm.
what the what you may be feeling within the body. Yeah. So, yeah, and I have thought about the epilepsy thing as well because there there is a theme in my inner world. Like I've got a family member, my niece, she's got epilepsy. She only got diagnosed last year. She has these funny seizures though. She'll be looking at you and then she'll just stop and then you realise that she's just blanked out and then she'll just sort of it's like the
Mm,
so it's
interesting.
not like a seizure you would think like because the first time it happened I was like, oh, is that the seizure that I'm talking about?
Mm,
And then my stepson has totally yeah, other clonic tonic seizures. So like two experiences. So it's like two different generations and it's two different
mm.
there's multi layers within that anyway, but it's just interesting. I'm thinking, yeah, there's something within my niece as well.
Mm.
Like she's so multidimensional anyway that is this what some of the children will experience as well. And so that then it's a confusion for the medical because it's
Yeah, yeah,
they've got her they're so confused by her and what's going on with her brain.
yeah.
Um,
It's the whole rewiring of the brain that's happening with this. I just made the
frequencies.
connection of this energy that's this new harmonic is the words that I'm calling it now because
Yeah,
you can you got that and you saw it, didn't you, in the color? Oh,
I did. Yeah, I did.
I hope everyone else can see that too. That's because that's
Yeah,
how it's trickling. This I
yeah,
this has started to trickle in more consistently, I would say, in the last 6-ish weeks. And a lot of people are picking up on this, but it's changing a lot in the brain chemistry, it's changing a lot in the eyes, and it's creating a lot of weird symptoms in the body.
yes. It it definitely has created some weird sensations within my body. I have changed a lot of things within even um I did like coffee. I've sort of gone off a lot of that coffee at the moment. I just can't. It's pretty dense. You got coffee?
No, no, no.
No coffee? No.
I'm on the
Um,
like no caffeinated chai.
yeah,
I'm just on the herbs now.
yeah, and that's where it's getting to. What have you know, it really is about. It is changing the
Yeah.
whole way it. I look at this atlas because
Yes.
I'll connect atlas to the back of the brain, the neck, and holding the. That's what they call that bone in the back of the neck there, the atlas. And when atlas came in, I was like, "There's something about this in a multidimensional as well as an interdimensional for me." So I was like, "Okay, what's atlas?" So I started looking at atlas, and atlas is something that's actually developed in the body at 6 weeks old. So it starts generating within the body at 6 weeks old. So if we've got this metaphor for this three-eyed
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
go.
right. Yeah, okay, yeah. I see where you're
And
going with this.
I was like, okay, and that's something that's from embryo, right? So splicing and dicing we know happens at a very cellular,
Yeah.
you know, so I haven't quite cemented where that, why it's called the atlas and the three eye entirely within the body, but I know that as it comes through, I'm going to have a lot of changes within my body per se. So I'm looking at, you know, the third eye plus the corpus callosum, which is the bridging of the brains, and then how does that feed into the atlas
Mm.
and and why it's coming in at this point in time. So like as we've got this planetary alignment or these harmonics, it's is it bringing in the new harmonics? Is that what it is?
Oh no, I don't want to interrupt you, but
No,
I'm getting all
just
these downloads you've
go
just
for it because
activated.
I don't have anywhere else to go.
Okay,
That's where I've
oh,
got to. That's where I've got to.
I don't know. This is just coming to my head. So what if, what if, because a lot of the more recent content that's coming up is around this fractalization of consciousness that happens that puts people into the parallels that is becoming more prevalent. And then obviously that fractures into maybe trafficking or SSP or some of the darker terrain, which let's not forget that on a higher level, we're the code breakers. So there have been agreements and contracts to like go into the darker places. But that's not where so a lot of this stuff around when we're talking about the matrix pods, a lot of that
Yes.
happens in utero. And when you said that about the
Hmm.
atlas being
Hmm.
formed, I was like, I wonder if there's a direct correlation to when the atlas is formed, that is when the consciousness can then be messed with, as you were saying, spliced and diced, while still in utero, to then start to connect into some of these denser realities or pods or however that looks multidimensionally. But you've got this bright light that comes in at conception. And then within, what did you say, 6 weeks?
Yeah, about 6 weeks, I think it
Yeah.
starts developing. Yeah.
Okay, so as it starts to develop, oh, we've got something that we can,
Yeah. At the
right?
back of the neck, and
Which is,
whole weight of the world on your shoulders, Atlas.
and the back of the neck, that area is where I see the matrix plugs that get plugged into people, like etherically, I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've only just got to watch, the Matrix series. So when you were saying all that, I was like, oh my God, but Three Eye Atlas is doing a flybright that is like ushering in the new harmonics. It is like the dawning, like the micro dosing of the
Mm-hmm.
dawning of this
Mm-hmm.
frequency, which then is why people are starting to break free of this and their consciousness is starting to come back in. That's why all this energy coming back in over at
Mm-hmm.
once is overstimulating. Holy
Fries the brain out. It just,
yeah.
and not to mention the optics have been inverted or whatever to,
Yeah.
so, and then, the masculine, feminine, it's got to all be contained, do you think the same?
Holy,
Because
yeah.
it would have to be, wouldn't it? It would have to be.
It's all intertwined. And I feel like once we get off this call, I am gonna be there's
You're going to be
definitely a
meditating.
part two coming.
Yeah,
Watch this space. Oh my
because
god.
it really is anchoring in the physical body. Because if I remember part of that session was a really clear, you are here to anchor this physical body with the multidimensional
Mm.
aspects and how that works. Well, it's going to have to respond to whatever influence it's getting. So comments were also said to bring influence, right? So when we look at the influence of that, it could affect us in multi-dimensional aspects as well. But just realizing that we're in a real change of
Yeah.
I got change of the guard. I just got a real
Yes.
change of the guard. Yeah. So I just feel into that. Yes, it comes back to developmental stages as well, so you can just see how it's just so it starts off down here, but it just ends up
Yeah.
so out here, and then you bring it all back into the inner world to be able to then process through that physical. So, a lot of movement. That was the other thing that was coming through in that session we did. So yeah,
Oh man, we've just opened up like 10 cans of
might be part two.
and the rest. But I
Big
also want to
rest.
I want to let you riff now as we sort of kind of come into a wrap up because you were kind of in your flow state before we hit record. And I think I've surprised you with some of the depth of where we've gone today. So I do apologize for that.
No, it's good. It's good.
Um,
Comfort zone. What comfort zone? Get out of it.
right. Well, I feel like that's where we're at with like, and
Rip the
sometimes,
band-aid off. Rip
yeah,
the band-aid off.
yeah,
Just
yeah. We're kind of at that point now. We're just being in authenticity and truth. And, you've given me the confidence to make this, just you showing up was like, oh, I could never have done this. So thank you. But
oh, thank you. Well,
yeah,
thank you for making me pull my voice through as well, because a lot of it's been connected to a lot of the voice box and how it's being cubed as well. And I don't know if I shared that with you in the last couple of weeks, how
I want you to, yeah, that's why I was going to say, you've got so much more wisdom to bring through about like your recent downloads and observations. So I just want to let you rip, rip
okay.
because you're quite
Well, we look
incredible
at
to listen to.
oh, thank you. Well, we look at our plane of existence. So the plane's got the black box. So I'm like, oh, that's the voice box. So, when you don't speak the truth, it's recorded, right? And it's recorded throughout the body, and really letting not being cubed within the box, and speaking the truth. So as I speak the truth, then those other the layers that I've held so tightly that will just start unraveling. And so a lot of it's connected, the mind and the voice, right? So if we want to look at the third eye as being the optimal eyesight or the vision, and where does that connect to? Multidimensional aspects. So the third eye, the actual meaning of the third eye came from reptilian. So it came through, I guess, through whatever they did 150 years ago, going through and taking all the animals and then dissecting them and whatnot. They found within the reptilian that they had a third eye, and it was actually brings through the light and gave them the ability to filter through whatever they were seeing to be able to push back through the light. So they've actually got a physical third eye on the actual outside of the reptilian, the lizard.
Oh, I did not know that. That's so fascinating.
Neither did I until this journey, Alicia, because I was like, because I'm a bit of a like, oh, well, where did that word come from? So I'm
You're great like that. Yeah, that's why I love listening to you. Welcome.
well, why did they call it the third eye? Like, who came up with that thing? Like, and we've all heard that saying for what, 20 years, and I thought I'll just Google it, and that's what it brought me back to. So 18 something, some scientist, blah blah. And then obviously the Mantis stuff came through as well. So Mantis has been something that has filtered in and out of me probably for the last 5 years.
Mm.
And then I started thinking, is my third eye the Mantis? So then I go and look up mantis and what do their eyes do? Oh, well, their eyes work independently
Huh.
and the lights. So they work independently, but then they work together to be able to form the light spectrum. So they work on wavelengths, light spectrums.
Oh, wow.
So we want to talk about reptilians, mantis. Like we're going to start owning these aspects of ourselves because these are the higher dimensional aspects when we come to understanding the optics. So
Yeah.
like the optics is what, we see this reality, the holographic reality. And so I've had a few people say to me, oh, you're reptilian. I'm like, yeah, okay. I like the sun. I do actually like to go see the sun. So I do know I've got reptilian aspects that are, obviously very physical within this realm that I do find myself in. I do like the hotter weather. I do want to honestly say that the winter I do want to hibernate and I have to make myself not do that. So we do have these internal shifts and knowings that do connect us back to, let's say, the animal kingdom or whatever anyway. But realizing that these multi-dimensional aspects of reptilian mantis or whatever are here to serve us right now, and they are part of the taking back what is ours, because they're ours. They're our pieces. So we're gonna pick up those pieces of multi-dimensional as well along the way.
Mm.
But seeing how it all just fits into like that's just the third eye. And I haven't even like gone through the rest of the anatomy of the body, but as soon as I was here, like mantis with the eyes and wavelengths, and it's all about light spectrums. They've got rows of different receptors. We can only see up to, I think it said something about I want to say the fourth dimension. See, my brain keeps saying fourth dimension. You can see
Yeah.
up to the fourth dimension.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then obviously the next layers are owning those aspects that are here to serve us in the greater
Hmm.
awareness and owning our pieces, like taking them all back. I mean, in our session, I think Uptarians came through. I think that was
Mhm.
as an energy that's helping
Yeah.
shift some of this. And then part of that, I feel like was it Draco, Chilean, and Pallades? I feel like it was like who I agreed with the I kind of came through as like I wasn't bored, but I was kind of bored with the with the game. So I've added these other layers. But the way I sort of look at that now, I see it as more of a holographic energetic. It's
Mm.
like I'm back here because this is what created from whatever
Mm. Yeah.
happened back here when I was here before or whatever. So it was part of whatever I played in. So like, let's say when I said before about being the driver that took the child from protection to
Mm. Mm.
it's been those middle that I'm only just getting this now. That's the thread that brought me back to now.
Yeah. Wow.
So whatever agreements I did, whatever I may have done back there, this
Yeah.
is the lifetime I'm going to bring it back in.
Yeah.
And then it's not righting the wrongs, but it's actually just bringing the light back into the spectrum that this is meant to be. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
can totally feel the enormity of that in that, like, it's not about us versus them or da 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 da. It's literally bringing unity back into the merging of light and dark to make it a full spectrum
Mm-hmm.
of,
Yeah.
well,
Because until we get something better, we need a child protection system in the sense of we need some sort of we it's not we need this reality needs
this
some
is
sort of
correct.
container for
Yeah.
that, and it needs a container for this, and it needs a container for this, and and that's only because we're not well as a human race, and until we're well as a human race, then it's funny that I said well because it's like water. It's that same, you know, can be a big tunnel of nothing, or it can be quite full, with the water. So it just depends on what you want to own and what you don't want to own, to how quickly this stuff's going to shift through your body.
Yeah.
So that's the other part. I mean, working in that industry, I created a lot of disease in my body because went against myself 90% of the time.
Mm, yeah.
So
That
it's
would
all
probably,
into
yeah, that would probably speak volumes to so many people. I mean, the body becomes unwell when we are in circumstances and situation that goes against our soul, period. Or it's a wake up call to change and to, you know,
yeah,
create something new. Like
yeah,
there is a high level of
absolutely.
intelligence of the direct communication between soul and body.
Yeah, I got a download a few years ago about fluid intelligence, and then I sort of like left it alone a bit, and I only came back to it a couple of months ago. And when someone talked to me about fluid intelligence within the young people that they were seeing in, so I looked
Mm.
it up. I was like, yeah, that's what it is. So fluid intelligence is what a lot of kids on the spectrum that don't have the right diagnosis, because there is no diagnosis for fluid intelligence. So they'll score really low down here, but really off the charts over here, and there's no in between. And then they'll think the psychologist has skewed the test because there's no in between. But that's fluid intelligence
Oh,
because it's running at a high optimal. And some pediatricians are starting to recognize it now, and some psychologists are starting to recognize it, that it is something that some kids excel. We probably all had moments of this. Like my thing at school was I didn't comprehend things well. You know what I mean? And I just think, now we could probably say that's dyslexia, or it's all of those things. I just don't think I could have been programmed.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I think that's what fluid intelligence, we'll find out fluid intelligence is. It's something that doesn't, the code that they want to put in there, it can't contain it. And then it rebels against it. And it's like, I'm not stupid. I just don't want to do your stupid work. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
Well, why are you trying to make me learn that when it doesn't even make sense? You know? Yeah,
yeah,
that's fluid intelligence.
God, this brings up so many questions and so many, like, I feel like, yeah, the sense as you're talking about all this is how full and ready to pop the systems are because they just don't. We've kind of reached that there isn't in conventional range, there isn't an answer for this, there isn't an answer for that. So for, I think, I don't think, I know that this is a nod to so many people who've had the feeling that, oh, I think I need to create or do this. We have to build it from within through us. Like the system isn't going to support that as we're transitioning from one version of reality we're the ones that are creating the perpetual change through our
We
knowledge.
asked for it, didn't we? We asked for it. We've been saying for what, at least 5 years, one of these systems going to just burn to the ground, or just, implode on themselves. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we're the imploders, I guess. And, you know, it's
And
difficult to watch if you're in those systems, and even the disability system. Like I said, I still work on the outside of it, but I know it's got to die.
mm, mm, yeah, yeah,
It's the system, not the not supporting people and helping people, but the way we do it, and the way that in Australia we've got an insurance scheme for our disabilities. I mean, what you're investing in there like now so they recover. Like the concept, whoever thought of it might have been coming from a beautiful place, but some disabilities are lifelong. Like if you're an amputee, you're not going to grow an arm back. Like it's just not going to be. And so to even that system, the language around our system in Australia and disabilities is It's the wrong language. And so
Mm.
as soon as we look at humans as not in, what is it? Like as in they're
Commodity.
not here for monetize. We're not
Um,
monetary
yeah,
for and
that's the issue.
that's the issue. We're
That's
monetary. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just,
Yeah, because we didn't even go there with child protection on that is the issue. We are worth a lot of money. Yeah. As a as
oh
an
my,
entity.
oh my God, that's like you've
Another rabbit
exploded
hole.
and and there'll be chapter two. Oh my goodness. Yes. You just open the doorway to the money and how much we're worth. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to wrap it up there.
we're gonna
The
wrap it
rest
up
of
there
the
because
could be here to
I'm,
Tuesday. No.
I'm gonna
That's
explode with
okay.
more and more information.
I feel
Oh,
like we're both going to get like from this. Yeah. It's
I think we've just started something now. So I think, yeah, we
so
we broke something. And I think it's important to have these conversations. It creates a ripple and then the action can come from that. And it's, yeah, not to be complacent, but to take guided action where you're prompted to and navigate as best you can and with compassion, you know.
yeah.
Poor,
Yeah.
I mean, we've all played roles, so we're just trying to be the cleanup crew now so we can embrace all this.
That's right. Shine the light, be like, it's not, Jane working at child protection office. It's not her. It's larger than Jane,
No,
you know.
no, it's
It's
the entities, it's the beings, it's the controllers of this realm,
yeah.
essentially. And I'm, yeah,
It's yeah, it's probably something, it's the influence, let's say that, it's the influence of this realm is a huge player in how it all unfolds. So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We all think we're doing the right thing until, like I said, hindsight. I think that's why they called it hindsight 2020 was just so that oh, 2020, oh yeah. I wish we knew
Right.
all those things in 2020. Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh, thank you so much for coming here and having this conversation. I think we've cracked some wide open lenses, and hopefully, this has been helpful and not too dark or debilitating. But it's important information, and it's all encoded with love and compassion and light in it. So, thank you for your service and what you do, and the incredible way that you decode. And yeah, just stay tuned for part two.
Oh, look, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for being that, beacon when I booked that session. And obviously I've had so much growth in just these few weeks that we've connected and having this conversation today. I've had, like you said, you've had many of these conversations offline. I have too,
Mm,
a lot, a lot. And more so probably since the last few years of what's unfolded in our country like we and yeah, but thank you for
mm.
giving me the voice to speak in that sense, like bringing up that this is where you wanted to go, and it was just like, let's go there, let's just pull the band-aid off and see where our multidimensional aspects take us. So
Exactly. I mean, it came through so loud. Like I'd literally been on a Zoom with you for like, and it was, yeah, it was all of like 10 minutes. And I was like, we have to have this public, we have to have what we're speaking about now has to go to the
yeah.
public forum. So thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. I would love to hear your comments and thoughts and everything that you have to share. If you've stuck with us for this long, thank you for being here through it all. And stay tuned for part two. And much love to everyone out there. And we'll
Thank
speak
you.
soon.